Welcome to the Single Sales Principle webinar for this week. Today is all about the elevator pitch. So why have it? Well, really it's to try and get your message in a succinct way as possible, really within 30 seconds, to the point where when you walk into the elevator on level 1, the buyer that you're pitching to is literally hitting the alarm button saying, stop, I want to hear more about this. That's the purpose of what you're trying to deliver. Now, how do we do that? The reason why the elevator pitch is so important is that on SSP, we typically talk about features, advantages, and benefits. And we know that to turn an advantage into a benefit, we need a need. But what if you're not in a situation where you can ask a customer what their needs are? Or what if you're in a situation where actually the customer doesn't know their needs? That's why we need to be able to come up with a pitch that we can present to somebody without asking them questions at all. So, where is this useful? Well, for example, it could be useful if you're selling online. It could be useful where you don't actually know the customer that you're pitching to, or you do know the customer that you're pitching to, but they quite frankly don't know what they don't know. So we have to educate them. So, let's take a look at one way of presenting this pitch, and this is from an organization called Brand Builder. This was the way that they suggest that we should structure the actual sentence. And they say you should talk about, this is for who the target customer would be, who has a certain need. You talk about the product name in the actual category that falls in, that the key benefit, unlike anyone else, delivers this unique differentiator. So that sounds a bit confusing. So let's try and put it into a way that we could understand. So for example, for Single Sales Principle membership, what could that look like? Well, it could be, say, for companies with 8+ people, they're the target company, who want to grow sales and profitability, that would be their compelling need. Single Sales Principle membership is a training program, market company, that delivers improved sales performance, key benefit, unlike any other, because we challenge behavior by education, accreditation, and ongoing support. So that would be our unique differentiator. So that is how the elevator pitch from a Single Sales Principle perspective could look. But how could we make that even punchier? How could we get the customer hitting the alarm button saying, stop, I need to find out more? So to do that, let's take a look at a book that we've looked at previously. And this is written by Brent Adamson and Matthew Dixon, and really trying to identify how we challenge customers more. Now, this came from the Harvard Business Review in July 2012, but they said that more than ever, brands need an intimate understanding of their customers' business to be in a position to identify unknown needs and to be able to coach their customers in the buying process. I think the key term in there is unknown needs. Customers don't know what they don't know. They said the hardest thing about business to business selling today is that customers don't need you the way they used to. What that means is that they identified that over 60% of the sales process has already been delivered by the customer themselves. They've already done their research, they've gone online, they've identified some of their needs potentially, they've identified the solutions in the marketplace, they've even started to look at some prices and compare different organizations. So to some degree, our job has already been done largely as a salesperson. So how can we go in there and differentiate ourselves? The way is to go and challenge their thinking. So this is particularly important when we're thinking about online, because online purchasers have very much gone through that process. So how can we educate people on what they don't know? And it's such an important identified area, this area of unknown want. We don't know what we want until we get it. I love this quote. Henry Ford said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, because we had no idea about cars, but we knew we wanted to go faster than a horse could carry us. So give me a better horse, please. Or, as we know, Steve Jobs said, I love this quote, it's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. So there's no point going out to customers and asking what they want if they don't know. Okay, and Jobs would create a product. If we think about it, the Sony Walkman. What a great product that was. Little did we know that we could get an infinite number of songs in about the size of that on the iPod. Or, to me, why on earth would we want any other device when we had a phone, when we had a laptop, but now how many of us use the iPad? So these are products that we didn't realize that we wanted until they were presented to us. So this unknown need it's a fantastic area for you to go in and pitch against. So within the Harvard Business Review, they identified 3 ways of delivering the pitch. So one was to uncover your customers' unrecognized needs, i.e. the unknown needs. Secondly was to help your salespeople challenge their customers. And thirdly was to help them in their selling to their customers, i.e. internal decision makers. So they spoke about addressing the roadblocks. And throughout this process, the key term here is you becoming a thought leader in the way that you present to your customers. So let's take a look at the first one, uncovering your customers' unknown needs. And this is all about disruptive ideas. It's how to make your customer aware of what they don't know, and in doing so, identify for them the gaps in their business. So very much you going in there and educating them on, first of all, these are things you should know but you don't know, okay? And secondly, this is the issue that this is causing your business. And they talk about the way to deliver this is through data. There was a case study where an organization in the States identified that 22% of sports fans are willing to switch favorite teams, and 30% have already done that in the past year. I found that fascinating. Fair weather fans. But the whole idea of this was, okay, sports fans are willing to change their team. More importantly, only 33% of the fans agreed that their teams actually listened to what they thought. Now, why is that relevant? Well, if you were a thought leader in that industry, you would say you think you have a loyal fan base. But there's an issue here. There's about 25%, 30% that are willing to change. And if you don't start listening to your customers, i.e. your fans, they will change. So this is what we need to do about it. So it's going in with data to prove your concept. Secondly, helping your salespeople challenge their customers. And this is all about upending a customer's approach to his business and push customers out of their comfort zone. So this is where you can start to demonstrate to a customer what they need to do to increase their performance in a certain area, okay? Now that may be leading this customer into a new marketplace, a new sector, a new area that they'd never even thought of before. So taking them out of their comfort zone and taking them to where some magic can truly happen. Thirdly, addressing the roadblocks in the customer's path to purchase. The quote here was that brands should enable their sales teams with materials that can help customers navigate the buying process. And how do they do it? Well, it's with good old sizzle selling techniques such as relevant case studies, relevant data, i.e. those stats that will truly prove what you're trying to say, and detailed projections that will help overcome objections. Okay, so helping the customer to influence the decision makers within their organization is a key factor in being able to influence the way that you advise this customer. So how do we summarize all of that? Well, pretty much there are 3 areas really. The first thing that you need to do is inform your customer of what they don't know. Challenge their current way of thinking. What you need to do there is talk about how do we effectively challenge what needs to be done, okay, for the future, okay? Take them out of their comfort zone, deliver exactly the way forward. And then thirdly, give them some tools, give them some strategies, give them some information that they can use to sell internally to their key stakeholders. So let's try and put this into a pitch. So what does this mean for us when we're delivering this pitch? Well, first of all, let's ensure that we use disruptive ideas, make them aware of their unknown needs, detect gaps in their business, and identify the things that are stopping them from delivering this in the first place. Secondly, challenging customers. Take them out of their comfort zone. What are the customers' aspirations? What do they want to achieve? How could they improve their business? And could you help them get into a new space? Imagine how valuable you would be as a salesperson if you could help an organization do that. And then lastly, influencing. This is where you use killer stats, data, case studies to absolutely prove it. So, in terms of the SSP pitch, what would that look like? Well, let's talk about SSP. Effectively, informing is making them aware of their compelling need. We talk so much on the course about compelling needs, but you need to let them know potentially what they don't know. So let them know about the compelling need that they have. Secondly, challenge. How does your credible solution deliver against this need? And is it different? Is it different from everybody else? And then thirdly, you need to influence. You need to prove your perceived value. And the way we do that, as we always talk about, is data, killer stats, and case studies. So what does this mean from put it together in terms of a pitch? So the single sales principle membership, this is how we would deliver this pitch. Without systematic ongoing learning and reinforcement, approximately 50% of learning content is not retained within 5 weeks. Within 90 days, 84% of it is lost. So that effectively means when companies send people on a training course, in 3 months, 84% of the money that they have spent has been wasted. So this cries out for ongoing support. So why don't companies do it? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that bringing everybody back together in a classroom costs money. We need to pay the training company, we need to hire a venue, we need to pay for everybody to get there. Secondly, the lost productivity from having people away from selling is obviously a huge cost to the organization. So that's the way that we would inform the customer. We challenge them on what they don't know. Secondly, continuous training gives 50% higher net sales per employer. So we know that what you want is an increased amount of revenue or profitability. And we know that stats say that if you do continuous training, you'll get a 50% uplift. Now, we are the only sales training company that we know of that provide multi-format continuous training. How do we do that? Well, in a multitude of ways. We have weekly webinars. We have bespoke masterclasses specifically for the organization. We have online refresher courses. We have reaccreditation programs. We have SSP forums. We have 24/7 online coaching. We have a number of ways that we engage with our people after they finish the SSP course. So lots of ways that people can engage with us on an ongoing basis to refresh the information that they have, but in a way that does not take them away from selling. And lastly, how do we deliver this with proof? Well, we have 400 plus members on SSP membership. We, as you know, won Sales Development Program of the Year, highly commended at the BESMAs. We know that surveying salespeople after 6 months of being on our program with one large European business-to-business consumables company, they had 137% uplift in their sales performance. So we know that it works. So, the elevator pitch. There's various ways that you can do that. We can use it in the sentence that we used earlier, or think about informing your customers, giving them information that they didn't know. Challenge them to be able to make the next step for their business, and then give them some real hard return on investment proof that this works. And that's probably the best way of you getting that customer to stop the elevator and say, give me some more information. Thank you for listening. We'll speak to you next week.